All right, guys, this is Chris with Drop Dice. So, what I'd like to talk about today is actually a video response. GM Juice from Tabletop Gaming with Juice actually just threw up a video talking about what he believes to be the RPG formula for success. Um, Basically, inside his video, he breaks it down and he says that ideally for success in the game, you need at least two players that can feed off of each other, and ideally you want three. That way they can kind of push, not even players, GM can be included in this math here, but three people at the table who can kind of push the story and kind of be good examples of role-playing games. I think that's very solid advice, and so I agree with you on that part, Juice. Now, you asked if we prep differently. Um, so I prep a little bit differently than you, and I'm going to throw out an arbitrary number here, and it's going to sound outrageous, but let me explain it. I think I prep probably about 4 to 6 hours a week. Now, what I do for 4 to 6 hours a week is probably the loosest form of prep ever. um, what usually ends up happening is and I consider this all part of my prep because the way my brain works, it's just I'm not the kind to be able to sit down and focus directly on something. I can do it with paintings, but just for some reason when it comes to writing, it's hard for me to do that. So what I'll do is I'll sit there and I'll think about it, and I'll think about some aspect that came up in the last game, and I'll kind of give it like 30 minutes of thought, and then I'll leave it alone. Or I'll come back to it later in the day and I'll think about it and I'll be like, oh, those are some good ideas, and I kind of jot them down. I actually do this when I world build too, is I pretty much constantly let a thought rattle around in my brain and just kind of let it eventually become something worth sharing. Like the Tianguna, I had this lovely picture that I found and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I gotta use it. Well, I let that picture sit in my brain and on my computer for about 2 days, and I let it kind of rattle around, get me some ideas. And to be fair, I haven't been working, so like when I get a chance and I'm at my computer, I have this picture that's haunting me, screaming, "I want to be erased in your game." Um, it got me thinking probably a little bit more at once than I normally would. But like my favorite thing to do is like I go on my lunch break and I kind of think back to what's going on in my game world, what's going on with the characters, and some of that prep is focused on character side, some of it's focused on world side, and then the interaction between the two. So I have like this floating Venn diagram of nonsense that goes through my head pretty much every week. But I consider all that prep. Now, what I do for actual like traditional prep is I probably only do about an hour. Like you suggested, you think 1 to 2 hours is probably good. I say probably about an hour. If there's something I'm really determined they're going to have an interaction with and I need stats for, that's what that hour is for. Usually, is calculating the stats. Or if I want to do stuff like drop some maps and things like that, I calculate that as part of my prep time. Um, One of the things that I did for this campaign is I made overlays for everybody in Legend of the Five Rings. That I would say is kind of part of my campaign prep, but it was for like one day. So, I mean, after it was done, it was done. But yeah, I'd say probably about 4 hours is probably pretty solid. And then much thanks to my fiance, because a lot of the times my prep ends up being me talking to her about what's going on in my games, and she doesn't really care, let's be honest. But she listens, and kind of because she loves books and things like that, she kind of helps as a sounding board to help kind of direct me in the way that I'm trying to find words for sometimes. And I think in a way she's almost my co-GM behind the scenes. But that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of share with you guys as far as like the formula for fun. I think the numbers that he threw out there, I think 3 is probably the best way to go. Um, I think even if you're a new GM, you can get away with 2 actually, because Juice mentioned it inside this video, and I talked about it in the last video, and Juice talked about it in another video. Is that the players have a strong influence on the fun that a game can have. So if you have 2 players that are feeding off each other and being able to feed into the story, I think it'll immensely improve your game, even as a new GM. So if you are a new GM looking to try out running for the first time, what I'd recommend is if you have some players that are interested, and you happen to be in that lucky seat that you have more than what you requested, then take a look at some of their past games and see if you see anybody whose play style seems like something you'd be interested in, or maybe you've played with them in the past and you know that you personally could feed off of them. Go ahead and use those things to your advantage, especially when you're getting used to actually being in the GM seat. That's pretty much all I've got for this video. I think my dog just got into something, so I got to go hunt him down. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys at the gaming table.